Hello, students. I, Mrs. Nehal Falkau, welcome you to the series of online lectures initiated by Shet Vidya Mandir, English High School and Junior College of Science and Commerce, Vasai. My dear students, we are all aware of how hard this pandemic has hit the entire world. In this lockdown crisis, Balbharti has made the 12th standard English course book available in a PDF form. The new course book is thoroughly enriching with an addition of a new genre of literature that is novel and also a set of new writing skills. Today, we shall deal with the poetry from our new English course book. My dear students, today we will study a poem called Indian Weavers by a well-known Indian poetess, Sarojini Naidu. Let us learn more about the poetess. Sarojini Naidu was born in a Bengali family in Hyderabad. She was an Indian political activist, a feminist, and a poet. A proponent of civil rights, women's emancipation, and anti imperialistic ideas, she was an important figure in India's independence struggle. She was the first Indian woman to become the president of Indian National Congress. Later, she became the governor of the United Provinces in 1947, thus becoming the first woman to hold the office of the governor of independent India. Her notable work in the field of poetry won her the title the Nightingale of India. Her poetry includes both children's poetry and others written on more serious themes which include patriotism, romance, and tragedy. Her works are as follows. About the poem. Indian Weavers was published in the year 1971. It is a short poem in which the life cycle of human beings is befittingly depicted in the work of the weavers. The poem consists of three stanzas, each of which represents the three important events of human life, which are birth, that is childhood, adulthood, that is youth, and death, that is old age. A lot of symbolism, metaphor, and imagery have been employed in the poem. The different garments, the colors of the garments, and the time of the day mentioned in the stanzas are very significant as they indicate, firstly, the mood related to the events in the poem, and secondly, they metaphorically symbolize a particular stage in life. The poem has a conversational tone. There is a conversation between the poetess and the weavers. The poetess questions the weavers and the latter reply. This is the poem Indian Weavers. I shall recite the poem. Indian Weavers. Weavers weaving at break of day, why do you weave a garment so gay? Blue as the wing of a halcyon wild, we weave the robes of a newborn child. Weavers weaving at fall of night, why do you weave a garment so bright? Like the plumes of a peacock, purple and green, we weave the marriage veils of a queen. Weavers weaving solemn and still, what do you weave in the moonlight chill? White as a feather and white as a cloud, we weave a dead man's funeral shroud. Students, you may have noticed that the language of the poem is quite simple, thus making it easy for the readers to easily comprehend it and interpret it. Now we shall proceed to the stanza-wise detailed explanation of the poem, followed by its appreciation. Here are the lines of the first stanza. Now students, if you have noticed, I have underlined two words in the stanza, and this is because while I'm teaching, I will be giving out meanings of those underlined words. Students, in the first stanza, the poetess questions the weavers why they are weaving clothes at the break of the day, that is, very early in the morning. The garment that the weavers are weaving is blue in color, which resembles the wing of a wild halcyon. Now, halcyon is the other name for the blue bird kingfisher. Also, the garment that is being woven is gay, that is, merry or bright. The weavers reply that they are weaving the beautiful dress of a newborn child. So, as I said earlier, the language is pretty simple and very easy to understand. But what is most important is the appreciation of the poetry, and it is very essential to comprehend the inherent meaning of the poem, and that shall be done in the next slide. Appreciation of stanza 1. In stanza 1, the time of the day mentioned, that is, the break of the day, is very significant. Here, the start of a new day has been used as a metaphor for the start of a new life, that is, birth, which is the first stage in human life. Secondly, the color blue. Blue color is associated with clear, beautiful skies. Thus, blue indicates something which is pure, gentle, and innocent, thus referring to the first stage of life, that is birth. Also, the garment of the newborn child is also a metaphor for the first stage of life, that is birth. Examples of imagery in stanza 1 are the break of the day, blue garment. Stanza 2. Here are the lines of stanza 2. Weavers weaving at fall of night, why do you weave a garment so bright? Like the plumes of a peacock, purple and green, we weave the marriage veils of a queen. In the second stanza, the poetess finds the weavers weaving again, but this time during the fall of the night. Here, fall of night refers to evening or dusk when the sun sets, thus paving way to darkness. She questions the weavers why they are weaving at night. The garment that they are weaving is very bright, just like the plumes of a peacock, which are purple and green. My dear students, plumes means feathers. The weavers reply that they are weaving the marriage veils of a queen. Appreciation of stanza 2. In stanza 2, the colors mentioned are again very significant. The colors purple and green indicate beauty, extravagance, vibrancy, youth, prosperity, and all of this refers to adulthood, which is the second stage of life. Most important mention is the mention of the marriage veils. Marriage veils refer to the golden time of life, that is adulthood. This is the time when people seek companionship and they enter the institution of marriage. There is a quest for a better, prosperous life. And this is the stage, that is adulthood, where we are most active, energetic, free, and vibrant. Also, the time mentioned in the second stanza, the fall of night, it is an indication and also a reminder to each one of us that the youth of each one's life eventually passes away. Examples of imagery in stanza 2 are fall of night and plumes of a peacock. Stanza 3. Weavers weaving, solemn and still, what do you weave in the moonlight chill? White as a feather and white as a cloud, We weave a dead man's funeral shroud. In the third and the final stanza, the poetess finds the weavers again, and this time they are extraordinarily solemn and still. Solemn means serious, and still here means silent. They are weaving in the moonlight chill, that is during the late hours of night when it is very, very cold. The poetess questions them what they are weaving rather than why they are weaving. Students, if you have noticed in the previous two stanzas, the question asked is, why are you weaving? Whereas in the last stanza, the poetess questions them, what are they weaving? When questioned, the weavers reply that they are weaving a dead man's funeral shroud. Now, shroud is a cloth in which a dead body is wrapped. Appreciation of stanza 3. In stanza 3, the shroud itself speaks of death. Also, the shroud, which is white in color, is speaking of death. White is a color associated with mourning, as this is the color people wear when they mourn someone's death. So here the white shroud refers to the last stage of human life, that is old age, which eventually leads to death. Also, the time moonlight chill has a lot of significance here. Now, moonlight chill is that time when it is very cold and chilly out there, which refers to death, because a dead person's body also becomes cold when everything comes to a standstill. Examples of imagery in the third stanza are moonlight chill, white feather, and white cloud. So this was all about the explanation of the poem and its appreciation. Now we further move on to the poetic devices used in the poem. There are a few examples of simile in the poem. Now students, as you all know, simile is a figure of speech where comparison is made using words like and as. So there are a few examples. This is an example of stanza 1. Blue as the wing of a halcyon wild. Now here a newborn's child's robes are compared to the bird halcyon, which is also blue in color. Here the comparison is made using the word as. Like the plumes of a peacock, purple and green. Here, the marriage veils of a queen are compared to the feathers of a peacock, which are purple and green, and here the comparison is done using the word like. The third example is white as a feather and white as a cloud. This is an example from stanza 3. Here again there is a comparison made between the shroud and a bird's feather and a cloud using the word as. We also find examples of alliteration in the poetry. Alliteration is a figure of speech where consonant sounds are repeated for a pleasing and a poetic effect. The examples are weavers weaving at break of day, weavers weaving at fall of night, we weave the marriage veils of a queen, weavers weaving solemn and still. Now my dear students, in all of the 4 examples here, the sound of consonant W is repeated. Also in the last example, weavers weaving solemn and still, the sound of consonant S is also repeated. The next figure of speech, which is of utmost importance, is metaphor. There are several instances of metaphor in the poem. Now, metaphor is an implied comparison without using words like and as. In metaphor, one thing is stated to be another thing. And there are 6 examples of metaphor in the poem. At break of day. Here, early morning is compared to the start of life, that is birth. Second, a newborn child. A newborn child itself speaks of birth, so it is an example of metaphor. The third example, the marriage veils. Here, the institution of marriage is a metaphor used for adulthood. Fourth example, at fall of night. Here, the setting of the sun and the arrival of the night refers to youth passing away slowly, leading to old age and ultimately death. Fifth example, the moonlight chill. The chill in the midnight air is a metaphor used for death. And the last example, a dead man's funeral shroud. Shroud itself speaks of death and hence is an example of metaphor. There's also an example of inversion in the poem. Now, inversion is a figure of speech where the order of the words in the lines are not grammatically correct. Blue as the wing of a halcyon wild. Now, here the grammatical order is incorrect. The correct grammatical order is blue as the wing of a wild halcyon. And lastly, we also have an example of repetition. Now, repetition is a figure of speech which can be identified very easily. It is a figure of speech where words are repeated. White as a feather and white as a cloud. Here, the word white is repeated for greater emphasis. Thank you, dear students, for watching this video, and I'll be coming up with more videos based on the content of your new English course book. Thank you.